here we have the number of the hot dogs that a street vendor is willing to sell is based on the price of the hot dogs because they kind of value their time. If they're not making enough money off the price of the hot dogs, they're not going to go out there for very long. So this is what's called a supply equation if you go into economics. But H equals 300p minus 100. This is kind of the amount that the vendor is willing to sell. Similarly, there's the number of hot dogs that people are willing to buy depends on the price. But in this case, people are wanting to buy more if there's fewer hot dogs. Or sorry, they're wanting to buy more hot dogs if the price is lower. And so we end up with a demand equation here. H equals negative 150p plus 1250. If we're trying to find the equilibrium price, we have one line with a, let's see, a y-intercept of negative something, and the other line looks something like this. It's a negative slope. This would be our supply equation. This is our demand equation. I'm not being terribly accurate with this particular graph, but you can see I have a negative y-intercept and a positive slope, positive y-intercept, negative slope. Our point of intersection is going to be somewhere along there. And this is kind of the ideal point. This is where the amount that the vendor is willing to sell exactly matches the amount that people are willing to buy at a given price point. So this is what's called the equilibrium price, or the equilibrium point, I should say. We're looking for the equilibrium price. So we have our two equations, and I could use either elimination or substitution method here. I would say that the substitution method is definitely the easier way to go here because both of these are already solved for h. So if I was to take this and plug it in for the h in the other equation, I end up with negative 150p plus 1250 equals 300p minus 100. So this was the value of h that I substituted away. But this is an equation that only has p's in it, which means I can solve it. I want to group all my p's together on one side of the equation. I'm going to move them to the left, even though it's negative. Oh well. Subtract 300p from both sides. I get negative 450p plus 1250 equals negative 100. Then I'll subtract 1250 from both sides, giving me negative 450p equals negative 1350. When I divide both sides by negative 450, I get p equals 3. So p is the price of the hot dog. I assume this is in dollars. I didn't really read. And whatever. I'm just making that assumption it's in dollars. So that is to say, if the hot dogs are sold for $3 each, then the vendor spends as much time, exactly the amount of time he wants to spend out there, and also the population, people will buy as many hot dogs as are supplied. This is kind of the ideal price to charge in this particular situation.